The 3-year-old's parents, who are from Kenya.
Investigations have been commenced.
The whole set of circumstances are tragic, and especially in relation to poor Sinclair.
Sylvia Timberlake, the firstborn child of Esther Arunga and Quincy Timberlake, who died on the 18th of June 2014, under circumstances authorities in Australia are yet to clearly understand and properly assign blame.
There were tears for her toddler.
News that thrust them back into the limelight and sent shockwaves in Kenya, where Esther charmed many hearts on the screen as a news anchor.
Hello everyone.
She and the man in her life fled Kenya following a torrent of bad publicity that began with her resignation in February 2010, followed by their arrest over claims of involvement in the occult at the Evangelical Finger of God Church, alleged forcible psychiatric treatment for Esther, and purported political persecution on Quincy's part. Australian authorities granted them asylum after suffering what they said was torture and unlawful detentions, besides constant media attacks in Kenya. And so they travelled roughly 15,000 kilometres to Australia, a continent of enchanting beauty, in search of a new beginning. They settled here in northern Brisbane's Kalanga town on Goodfellows Road. The young couple had 3 children, Sinclair and 2 girls now aged 2.5 years and 6 months old. In a 34-page mail sent to me through her lawyer's email, she wrote in reference to their detractors, quote, "They had sour grapes and they could hap their lips all they wanted. But I had my husband, I had my kids, I had my life back in Australia." End of quote. They were still celebrating happy times and the arrival of their youngest daughter when tragedy struck again here in their refuge island. Sinclair died barely 2 years since their arrival in exile. Tracing Esther is no easy task. We begin at their former residence in Kalanga's Meadowbrook estate, but we are turned away.
Okay, bye.
So we've just come out of the estate where Sinclair died, about 300 meters down this street, but the management appears to be very sensitive about the incident. They won't allow photography. In fact, one of the ladies we found at the manager's office told us bluntly that you won't see the house and you shouldn't even be looking for that house. Finding the family's new address in Brisbane, the capital of Queensland in Australia, would take us a week to locate. Kenyans here in Queensland have little knowledge of their whereabouts. We're told the couple has kept away from Kenyans and led a private life. Finally, we get a lead that takes us to her doorstep. It's 2 p.m, but the window curtains are drawn. Impossible to tell whether there is anyone inside. Her voice asking who was at the door comes as a big relief.
This is Sylvia from Kenya. We should know that people really love you. Sorry? They hated your husband, but they loved you, so you find that really? Or you can't hate one half and love one half.
She was speaking in reference to a raging social media campaign seeking 100,000 signatures to bring her back to Kenya. Her answer to that, thanks but no thank you.
But you're holding up well? No?
After a lengthy chat through the closed window, she voluntarily opens the door.
Hi. How are you?
The sight of the camera, however, sends her back inside. She explains in her email that she has been running away from the glare of cameras for the past 4 years. "I'm dealing with too much. Media is just added stress," she says. But with the assurance that we would not film her nor expose her new residence, she calms down and welcomes us into her house. She authorizes her lawyer Chris Ford to go on the record on her behalf. Ford practices in Sydney, about 1,000 kilometers from Brisbane.
She's in a very difficult position and has been for some time. So naturally it takes its toll. She's fighting for her children, and she still stands by her husband. She understands that he's ill and that this was something that he couldn't prevent. But in terms of her personality, I think she's quite a remarkable woman, a very strong-willed woman who just doesn't give up.
Inside, she opens up on life in exile, a conversation that would keep us engrossed for 6 hours. Having lived and studied in Sydney, Australia for 7 years, she says it was not too difficult for her to renew her residence visa. I'm a permanent resident of Australia and our children are citizens with Australian passports, her email message reads in part. Quincy would join them months later, having also convinced the authorities that he was a political dissident in need of an asylum. Having studied law here in Australia, the former TV anchor found a job as a lawyer at the New South Wales Supreme Court on settling down. But when she got pregnant with a third child, she says she had to stop working. Even then, they continued to live comfortably.
The system over here is, the welfare system is fairly helpful in her situation. It assists her family, and so, she's got some security.
She couldn't, however, divulge much about the circumstances surrounding her son's death, understandably because the matter is before the court. Initial reports, however, indicated that Esther and her husband allegedly told the police that the toddler fell off the stairs while playing with his sister.
In this case, there are no particular witnesses to the event.
3 weeks later, Queensland Police prosecutor presented documents to the magistrate stating that Esther had given another version of the story, that she saw her husband punch the little boy in the stomach repeatedly before throwing him against the wall, ostensibly to save him from aliens and demons implanted in his body. When that traumatic episode was over, they reportedly bathed their little boy, dressed and put him to bed. But the worried parents, noticing the boy's condition was worsening, called in paramedics. Unfortunately, the paramedics couldn't save him. Quincy Timberlake now stands accused of their son's murder. Esther, on the other hand, is charged with the offense of being an accessory after the fact to murder. The prosecution believes she was protecting her husband by not being frank from the onset.
She obviously saw things that she didn't disclose straight away, but she had to remove herself and put herself in a position where she was safe with the children. And that didn't occur until after Quincy was admitted to hospital.
For now, she stays all alone in this house. Australian authorities have placed her daughters under foster care. She spends her lonely days on the internet and reading a heap of books, including biographies of world leaders stashed under her living room table. Esther, however, still can't bring herself to unpack the family's suitcases 5 months since they relocated. Seeing Sinclair's belongings overwhelms the bereaved mother. She says in her email, "We loved our son dearly. I feel like there is a hole in my heart where he belongs, and I'm just looking forward to the day I will see him again." End of quote. It was not until 8 p.m. that we left Esther's place. She escorted us and bid us goodbye at the bus stop near her home. Tomorrow we give you a preview into the parallel trials she and her husband are facing in exile. Sylvia Chebet for the Newsmakers series, Brisbane, Australia.